Ma'am, good morning. Dr. Swati Singh.
Morning, Sandeep Ji.
Good morning.
Welcome
Good
on board.
morning, Sandeep.
Good morning, Dr. Dwivedi. Good morning,
Good
Dr. Devendra
morning.
Pai.
Even we can start then, Sandeep Ji is there.
Okay. Uh, Once again, good morning, everyone. And after that very first interesting session of the day, Is India a Nation or a Federation, with Bhupendra Chaube and Ratan Shardaji, we move on to the second session, which is the penultimate session of the seventh edition of VESIM Lit Fest as well. So, this the theme for this dialogue is technology making tectonic changes in our economy. And for this session, we have Aasherwad Dwivedi and Sandeep Nair. First of all, let me introduce Dr. Aasherwad Dwivedi. Dr. Dwivedi is an assistant professor in the Department of Economics, Sriram College of Commerce, Delhi University. An experienced educator with a demonstrated history of working in the higher education industry, Dr. Dwivedi is proficient in analytical skills, programming, macroeconomics, and English. A consultant working with the energy, natural resources, and sustainability vertical at CSEP, Dr. Aasherwad has submitted his PhD thesis exploring the conglomeration of formal and informal manufacturing in India at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in 2020. Dr. Dwivedi also has an MPhil degree from JNU. His research interests are in economic geography, economics of innovation, political economy, and applied economics. He is an associate fellow at the Center for Social and Economic Progress, Delhi. He is also a member of the Task Force on Climate Development and IMF. His research focuses on interlinkages between formal and informal sector, economic geography of innovation in India, energy transition, and its impact on fiscal policy. He aims to contribute to designing evidence-based policies for India. So we welcome you to the seventh edition of VESIM Lit Fest, and I won't say with a big applause, but with a virtual applause, let us welcome Aasherwad.
Thank you so much.
Our next member in the panel is Dr. Sandeep Nair. Dr. Sandeep Nair is a professor, academician, and a social worker. Currently, the senior project officer for academics at Chanakya University, he has had a long and remarkable career in 26 years in teaching, training, and consultancy. His areas of expertise are mainly economics and management. He has also been a part of the prestigious Rotary International as a cultural ambassador to Germany in 2011. Apart from this, he has also been on a part of various academic, social, spiritual, and student organizations. Sandeep ji, we welcome you to the seventh edition of VESIM Lit Fest. And without much ado, I'll hand it over to Sandeep ji and Aasherwad.
So, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Honor. Thank you for the generous words and introduction. So, may we commence, ma'am and sir?
Your video can.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, some of my image doesn't seem to appear. Well, let's see. Along the way, maybe. So I'll commence. Thank you for this invitation. Thank you for this, making us a part of this conclave. It's an honor. Very happy to be here. So as it is suggested, this is a discussion or presentation on the topic technology bringing about tectonic changes in the economy. And this session would run this way. With the introduction of Dr. Dwivedi, now may I request Dr. Aasherwad Dwivedi to present his views, after which I shall complement with my observations, and later we'll open it up for questions and answer. So, with the permission of all in the organizer, may I request Professor Aasherwad Dwivedi to kindly start the session with his opening remarks on this topic. Sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. So, first of all, thanks, Professor Singh, and everyone in the organizing committee for inviting me. So, as already introduced by Dr. Nair, we'll be talking primarily on technology and how it is affecting the economy. But what I thought is we will be talking about the topic into broadly three parts, that is past, present, and future. I'll start with giving or putting the current scenario in a very long historical perspective so that we can understand what's new, what's not new. Then we'll talk about something about the present, and then what are the future challenges. So, in a very long-term view, human beings have always tried to find an alternative source of energy to do things. The first answer to that was muscle power of animals. And for a longest time, muscle power of human being and animal was the only source of energy to do things and to move things. But both the muscle power of human being and animal require food to survive, in addition to housing and shelter that human beings need. Now, if we understand and extend this chain, we find that land is at the center of all these things, because food comes primarily from animal and from plant, and then for keeping a lot of animal we need land, and for agriculture we need land. Gradually, as we progressed in the course of the world, because of this problem or this peculiar issue, land became more and more scarcer. As land became more and more scarcer, the price of muscle power of both human beings and animal became more and more expensive. And this was one of the most important driving force for the first major technological change, which we called Industrial Revolution, or we called Industrial Revolution 1 or IR1. And that also was an attempt to move away from the muscle power, and the first good answer to that was using coal. And that is why it's not a coincidence that the first application of steam engine that drove the Industrial Revolution, or that started Industrial Revolution 1, happened in solving a coal mining problem, that is how to bring out water from coal mines. Nevertheless, we all know that this idea of that industrial revolution, in a sense, changed the whole world. We call it the Great Divergence. It created a great divergence between the East and the West. But in various phases, technological progress started happening. In the Industrial Revolution 1, it was centered around steam engine, cotton spinning, and railroads. In the Industrial Revolution 2, that's the second cycle of the technological progress, it was centered around electricity, internal combustion engine, indoor plumbing, motion pictures, elevators, cars, aviation, etc. I mean, much broader spectrum of things. Then came the third cycle of technological progress. We call it IR3, Industrial Revolution 3, which was completely internet-based revolution. And what we are witnessing today is, that's why called sometimes IR4, Industrial Revolution 4, which is basically based on artificial intelligence, robotics, and blockchain technology. Now, why is this historical context important? Is because of the following reason. First of all, we should try and understand what are the historical learnings about technological. I mean, what we are witnessing today is a cycle. It's not something that is happening for the first time. So what are the facts, or what are the stylized facts about technological progress that we have learned from the past? The first is that technology and labor are long-run complements but short-run substitutes. And I mean, this happened in every cycle of technological progress, that when it started, people feared that it is going to make a lot of people unemployed, and there were social unrest, much more than what we witness today. Social unrest, because of technological progress in the past, has been much stronger than what we see today. But what we find in all the cycles was that as we progress, there are more jobs created through those technology than the number of people replaced because of technology. That's why it is more or less established that technology and labor are long-run complements, but in the short run, they may look like a substitute. The second learning is in again in the very short run, every technological progress or every innovation looks like it is done just for the elites, and that is why, I mean, there is some kind of a elitist sentiment associated with it, and people usually see it as not good for the masses, but that is also not true. Most of the technological progress of the past have really benefited the masses as well. I mean, I won't go in details, but just two things. I mean, those are very simple innovation, but they changed the life of the masses. One was indoor plumbing, and second was washing machine. I mean, these are very small innovation, but it completely revolutionized the way people use their time. So it does look like that, you know, every new change is just for, you know, high income group or elitist people. It is going to ignore the masses, but that's not true. The third important learning is that technological progress always is path dependent. And this is a very important characteristics that plays an important role in the fourth cycle as well. I'll come back to this when I talk about the future challenges. When I say path dependence, it means that every new cycle builds on the innovation of the past cycle. So whatever happened in the past plays a very important role in what is happening today. It is, in that sense, this whole process is path dependent. Now, this is, and these more or less, or these three learnings are absolutely true in the fourth industrial revolution as well. We have similar questions. We think about the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, specifically robotics. We feel that it is going to displace a lot of workers. A lot of people are going to lose their job. In the short run, it may look like that, but in the long run, the history tells us that this is going to create much more jobs as well. But we should also try and see that if these are the past learnings, are there things which are purely original this time? And yes, there are certain things that we should try to highlight that might diverge. The trends that we see in the fourth cycle will be slightly different from what we have seen earlier. So maybe historical learning may not apply one-to-one. So we should be aware of the challenges as well. What is that one specific way in which the fourth industrial revolution is slightly different from the other cycles? One common thing in all the three cycles was it was centered around displacing human labor with machine. So a lot of things that we used to do, we found ways to do it through machines. It was more about physical labor's displacement. What is happening in the fourth one is not only, and it is more centered about thinking. Fourth industrial revolution is more about machines being trained to think like human being. So it's not just about displacing human labor, it's also something mental. It's also the thinking power of the human being that is now being transferred to the machines. Now, in this sense, the fourth one is slightly different from the other one, and that's why maybe we are going into a bit of an uncertain territory. But still, I believe that the short-run substitute, long-run complementary feature of technology is going to play a very, very important role. I mean, this is going to hold, though I accept that this is a bit new, and it is this feature of fourth industrial revolution is slightly different from what we had in the past. Now, about the present, when I talk about the fourth cycle, I would like to highlight what is India's role in this. And this is very important because unlike the other three cycles, fortunately for us in the fourth industrial revolution, India has played a very important and significant role. And I dare say that India, in some fields, is a clear leader where we have used the modern technology to solve some important problems. And sometimes I feel that we Indians ourselves don't realize that in how remarkable certain things are that we have done. And there are very few countries in the world which has used technology in the fourth cycle to solve some of the fundamental problems that we have. What are the, I mean, there are a set of initiatives that are important, but I would like to highlight basically the two things. First is financial inclusion through digital payments. And this, and we have UPI, then government has issued e-rupee. UPI is now can be used both on smartphone and feature phone. E-rupee also can be used on feature phone. It's like a voucher system, but it is going to be used. It can be used on feature phone as well. So even in the backward areas where, I mean, although the availability of internet is expanding every day, but even if people do not have smartphone, even on feature phones, both UPI and e-rupee can be used. Not only that, UPI Lite, which is basically a smartphone wallet that can be used even when there is absolutely no internet. These features has made payment system very, very robust. And most importantly, it has brought massive increase in financial inclusion. I mean, if you say, if we see the latest financial inclusion statistics from the NFHS data, we found that between 2014-15 to 2019-20 across all states, it is massive. I mean, we are very close to approaching universal financial inclusion, both, I mean, both for men and women. And this is basically a remarkable achievement, which is completely based on using a set of technology. And all those technology are made indigenous, so we call it Indian stack of technology that has really helped us do this. And we, I mean, there are very, I think only if we leave China, there is absolutely no other country in the world where digital payment of equivalent of value 1 rupee is allowed for free. Last month, Federal Reserve in the USA came with a white paper discussing their challenges of digital payment. If we read that, we'll realize how remarkable UPI is. So that is one problem, which is financial inclusion being solved through a set of technology that is being developed in India. The second initiative that I would like to highlight is One Nation, One Ration Card. That is again an initiative which is digitizing the public distribution system through two portals. One is Integrated Management of Public Distribution System, which is called IMPDS. Another is Anna Vitran, which basically which gives you statistics on both the interstate and intrastate uses of ration card. It is completely based on linking the ration card of the beneficiary through Aadhaar card, and then all fair price shop using a e-point of sale. Now, this is some kind of a revolution that is happening. I would request all of you interested to check IMPDS and Anna Vitran website. I mean, it is also solving a huge problem that was there related to food security. We have in our country, we have a migration issue where a lot of people from relatively poorer state migrate to relatively well-off states where they don't get the food, although the government has the food security law, but they usually were unable to utilize it. And we really saw a very ugly side of it during the COVID crisis. But One Nation, One Ration Card has completely solved that problem. This is, I mean, gradually the numbers of conversion to e-point of sale is increasing every day, and I'm very hopeful that very soon all PDS will move to the system of One Nation, One Ration Card. And as always, technology has very large positive spillover. I'm very sure one nation, one ration card will not just solve the problem of public distribution system. It will also give us a sense of migration pattern. We do not, I mean, in our country, we really need to understand migration patterns very well to make policies. We have lack of statistics on that, but one nation, one ration card is going to really give us very useful information on from where people migrate to which part of the country. And this is along with one nation, one ration card. And if we add the jam trinity, which has also improved the efficiency of direct benefit transfer, the problem of food security and social security transfers will be completely solved based on the set of technology that I was talking about earlier. Now, what are those set of technology? There are three set of technology that I'm talking about. One is digital identification, which is done through Aadhaar and digital KYC. The second is digital payment, which is done through UPI or instant remittances like IMPS. And third is a data sharing framework developed by RBI, which we called account aggregator framework, which basically helps in data sharing, which is being very well regulated as well. So these initiatives, and there are others as well, but these are worth highlighting. India has played a very important role and is clearly a leader in using technology and solving policy issues. Now, what are the future challenges that we have and where technology can play a very important role? There are many things that can be done, but again, the two things that we can really highlight. One is the problem of climate change and global warming. I mean, after COP26, more than 130 nations are signatories to net zero emission targets. India's target is 2070, but it is a daunting task for all the country to move away from fossil fuel. I mean, our economy and our life is very much embedded in fossil fuel, that is primarily coal, oil, and both petrol and diesel and natural gas. Now, this is a peculiar problem because most countries, including India, get a lot of revenues from coal, oil, and natural gas. If we want to move away from this, we need cheaper technology, very less expensive technology, very less expensive renewable energy sources. If we can't do that, it will be almost impossible for governments to move away from fossil fuel. Because we get a lot of revenue, if we move away from fossil fuel, our revenue will decline. And if we have to subsidize expensive renewable energy appliances, then it will be financially not viable to do this. So the complete hope of climate change progress is and achieving net zero target will be dependent on innovative use of a technology to provide another alternative source of energy, which is cleaner. We have done some progress. Whatever progress has been achieved in the field of climate change in the last few years is basically based on technological progress, but there is a lot to do in that field, and I'm very sure that in this specific area, innovation and technological progress will help us get a cleaner source of energy. Here, as I told you earlier, that the path dependent nature of technology is very important. One of the key issue that we all are facing is from last 150 years for all countries, because we have infrastructural progress made for petrol and diesel, and things are path dependent, it is very difficult to create a new set of infrastructure to move to things like electric vehicle. So imagine, from last 100 years almost, every country has done things to facilitate easy movement of, let's say, petrol and diesel cars. Now suddenly, if you want to move away from petrol and diesel cars to electric vehicles, we need a new set of infrastructure. And again, it is like redoing or resetting the whole infrastructure of a country. So these are important challenges which has to be tackled, and I really hope that technology will help us in this. The second is something that was highlighted in this year's economic survey. There is a chapter where certain issues like night lights and highways are highlighted using satellite data. Now, this is a very, very new field, not just for India, but for the world as well. But this satellite data can also be utilized to solve a lot of policy issues. And this is also one new area where I'm very hopeful that India will utilize it to solve a lot of developmental challenges that we are facing. And this is a new avenue, but once we make easy access to satellite data to everyone, it can provide important insight specifically for the backward area. And that will help us solving developmental problems in those areas. So I would stop here, giving a brief overview of the past, present, and the future. And I would now love to hear Dr. Nair's view.
So thank you. It's a pleasure listening to you, and thank you for giving that perspective, a very comprehensive perspective of the past, present, and future of how the technology is taking us to. Continuing with what Dr. Dwivedi started, now that all of us are very, very familiar with Pradeep Mehra and his exploits, and we are with him, we also are enjoying Kacha Badam, and yesterday's news speaks about how Dalir Mehdi is the first to buy plot in the Metaverse. Welcome to the new world. Now, please understand, I would like to mix this extremely interesting topic with certain managerial perspective. So, because I understand large number of you are also students. Now, we are in the knowledge economy, and this has also been termed as we are in the world of intangible capitalism. The capital is unseen because it's knowledge. Please understand, students, as Dr. Dwivedi was speaking about, that in the history, economic, political history, we see constantly a certain product or process has always redefined the way the world was seen or the way the world worked. Now, over a period of time, it may be the Ford process of manufacturing or even something called a digital camera or the Walkman stereo. Everything influences the way we live and work and think. But today we are in a world where technology has seamlessly integrated into our life. We don't know where human life ends and technology implication starts. In that context, let me present broadly how is technology bringing about a tectonic change, an extraordinary change in the way we not only look at work, life, but also our perspectives and thinking. And the dimensions, as rightly put by Dr. Dwivedi, includes, we are talking about digitization, virtualization, molecularization, internet working, disintermediation and things like that. To make things a little more simple from an economic perspective, I'd like to help you understand this topic in this perspective. Let's look at 6 major dimensions of economics, starting with consumption and ending with public finance and governance. Now, consumption. Look at the way technology has not only enabled us to get what we need and also get what we may not need. Look at the consumption pattern. Technology has not only become a medium, but has become the end point of human consumption. Now, in that sense, from the source to the media to the product, just look around. You can understand the impact of technology in the way we consume. And that's where everything starts. In your first chapter of economics, all teacher would have asked you which is the first sense that humans develop, and that's definitely the sense of taste. That's where everything starts. So our consumption desire pattern, everything, our consumer behavior has transformed because of technology. And there again, it leads to the sense of production. Now, I don't have to speak about, sir just spoke about the industry 4.0, extraordinary automation. Now we went a little step ahead of industry 5.0, which look at human machine interaction. I'll go to that later. Now, therefore, production has changed. in an unbelievable manner. India is the back office of the world. China is a manufacturing center for the world. And so the world is a factory. I mean, India called world is a family, but actually the world is a factory. Now, after production, we come to exchange. Look at the way e-commerce has taken us over. Now, I jokingly tell everybody that this e-commerce platform, with no pun intended, it's actually, rather than a shopping place, it's actually a trap. You can never buy anything only once. You get into it. So at the same time, because of that exchange process, which hugely, I'll go a little detail into later, we come to distribution. Look at the extraordinary distribution of wealth and income this has facilitated. I mean, India is the home of 40 unicorns and startups. Every young boy in a college or even a school thinks of doing something on his own, and you find that there's an extra India, perhaps I think statistics would support me, has one of the fastest growing billionaires population in the world. So distribution of income has happened. I know we'll go to the challenges of it in the future. Next, we come to the public finance part of it. Now, as Sir was speaking about the DBT facilitation, the JAM Trinity, this is all how governance has been enabled with a great amount of convenience with the integration of technology. Now, to give you certain thing, and economic planning and the smart cities you're already aware of. To give you a certain small examples of specific technological interventions and how things have affected. Now, look at the artificial intelligence. Now, we are talking about a 450% growth in terms of employment in the artificial intelligence sector. Now, Bill Gates, comes out with an observation a couple of years ago saying that it's about robotics. He says, because as Sir was rightly saying that labor is being replaced by automation and robotics, robots should be imposed with taxation. I mean, they have to be made to pay income tax. And look at the way we are looking at a world. Now, Internet of Things. Do you know that certain schools have banned, perhaps, from children wearing those smart watches, which indicate how many calories are you intaking and what the steps you should be covering, because people are extremely being conscious about it. Now, Internet of Things is how Internet is pervading into all that's around us, our home, our furnitures, and everything. Of course, work from home, RFID, and everything. So that's the extent to which even our everyday life is being influenced by technology. The blockchain, crypto is the word of the day, NFT, non-fungible tokens. Now, cryptocurrency is an extraordinary phenomenon which is generating a lot of interest, and perhaps democratization of currency or internationalization of currency. I'm just giving you certain concepts which can be went into much deeper. I told you about how yesterday's news says Daler Mehndi bought a piece of Metaverse and called it Balle Balle Land. The point is, Metaverse is a three-dimensional world that anybody can possess. Now look at the way, Metaverse, the higher order universe. So, the gaming industry is perhaps the virtual reality, the augmented reality for gaming to health purpose in terms of huge applications there. And big data, I don't have to tell you about that. Now, sentiment analysis, deep learning, and things like that. Data analysis is a part of our life. I mean, right from booking a movie ticket. So, for example, you talk about how Netflix has saved huge amount of money through this by letting you understand what each individual customer would be interested to know and learn. Then we get into machine learning, how machines are being capable of learning themselves, and cloud computing. Now, India, in manageable, Vijay Govindarajan talks about reverse innovation as a unique, thing to India. Now, that's a phenomenon. Now, cloud computing or mobile computing enables a great amount of infrastructure product development with infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. So now, finally, I come to the security part of it. 70% of the companies which are in this business experience certain kind of data, which we are talking about a world which is inadequately policed. So therefore, these are the various aspects and dimensions of how technology is integrating into our life, and therefore the economic factors. Now, how does it specifically influence economy? Let me present it very quickly, consolidating from the points what I heard from Dr. Dwivedi. First thing, a huge amount of employment opportunities and empowerment. I would like to use the word empowerment. Now, there was a certain, now how do you call driver who works for Uber, is he self-employed or is an employee? Now there's a debate all there. The point is a sense of empowerment. And technology has also enriched our life in ways which we never imagined before. So personally and collectively, at the same time, environment, we are able to create a virtual world and environment. I'll go to the resource utilization later, natural resource, but a different environment has been created. The way we learn and the way we are educated. It's a very interesting phenomenon when somebody speaks about virtual learning. I'm amazed. Well, if the learning is virtual, where's the actual education? But then things have changed that way. A very important point is engagement. Now, I don't have to talk to you about the social media impact. Now, I'm not talking about the social life here. Economically, now the kind of YouTubers and things like that, which generates the possibilities of innovation and economic improvement through public engagement over cause and things like that. Now, I also understand that technology has made us a lot more equal. Although the digital divide exists, there's a great amount of sense of equality in terms of possibility. And if you're talking about a completely free world and absolutely uninhibited expression, technology has made it possible. So the area which we need to really understand is about the sense of ethics. If I were to tell you when the Sony invented the Walkman stereo, it symbolized an idea. It symbolized an idea that so near yet so far. How can somebody be so individualistic in the midst of a crowd? It generated a certain ethical debate. Then when we invented the digital camera, it consolidated that debate. Now, when we say a picture doesn't lie, but a digital camera is about morphing, the point I'm saying is technology has brought in a huge amount of debate in terms of ethics as well. Now, overall, when we talk about technology impact on the economy, looking at every dimension of economic activities, technology has seamlessly got integrated, because of which largely the world has changed. To a great extent, every individual, made from the streets of West Bengal to the corners of the Kenyan jungles, people are being noted and they're able to express, and it's coming out. And in terms of sheer wealth creation, employment generation, governance aspects, and revenue consolidation, globalization. Now, we also know that the next world war, I hope there will never be one, probably may be fought over social media. And how we know, for example, that China it has got a cyber army. The point I'm talking to about is, so these are the certain possibilities across everything, across individual life to governance, things are being transformed. In this context, to add to what Prof. Dwivedi was speaking about, in India, we have to be very, very concerned about the kind of infrastructure that's being built, the kind of education and the kind of awareness that's being created. We are not aware of it. We were being busy in building a physical infrastructure, but then this wave happened, and now we are in the midst of developing a technology infrastructure. So we need to prioritize. We need to understand what needs to be to be focused on. But then this is something which cannot be avoided. It's going to be a part of life. So in this context, definitely technology like never seen before has become a part of our life, and therefore has become part of all our activities. It's very interesting. There's a perspective that human beings, having been, all things, today is an economic being. Homo sapiens being an economic being. It's materialism, especially the possessiveness and things like that, are very important. So therefore, all that activities we do has an economic dimension. So in that context, from the individual to the corporate, to the global, to the public and the governance area, technology has redefined the way we live, work, and think. And these are the dimensions which is adding. And I've not even talked about 3D printing or cloning and a lot of things in health and education. The revolution is unimaginable. So that way, this is how I'd like to not take much time, because I think there may be a lot of questions which is coming our way. I would like to end by just giving you these perspectives on how technology is defining the way we live, work, and the economy is developing. Thank you. I mean, if I've taken a little too much of time, we are open for questions. Kindly direct your question. It's more about you, so we are open and we are here.
There are some questions, Devin, if you can take them.
You may kindly direct it to me or Dr. Dwivedi. Yeah, please do ask questions. It's your session.
There's one from Devashish. The market is growing positively for fintech companies in India. Can we expect to see few fintech unicorns in the next decade?
Uh, Definitely, we can expect, and but I mean, because the question is about fintech and unicorn, uh, the answer to the question directly is yes. But I would like to highlight something more important in that field. That is, the number of unicorns in India is not just growing, not just in one field, but in a diverse set of areas. But most importantly, the latest trend says that earlier this phenomenon was broadly centered in Bangalore. Now, Delhi NCR has more number of unicorns than you have, no, more number of startups than you have in Bangalore. And gradually, the latest statistics tells us that even in tier one and tier two cities, we have startups coming up. So broadly, I mean, earlier it was thought of a very, metro-centric and Bangalore-centric phenomenon, which is now pan India, and that's why we can really hope that in the future the country is going to benefit quite a bit from this.
Just to add to Dr. Dwivedi's point, please note one area which has a huge opportunity in India is the financial inclusion area. So I agree completely with what Dr. Dwivedi says, that this is one area where we'll have a lot more revolutionary growth happening. Yes.
Any questions, students?
Do we have any more questions? I think, Swatiji, can we wind up the session then? Yes.
I'm sorry to interject here. I'm a little confused now because it did not
Sir, I
generate
have
any.
one
Yeah, there's a
question.
question, I think. Please.
Could new manufacturing technologies empower individuals or make them more vulnerable? Uh, and how could we all benefit from automation?
A good question. The If you look at India, and as I said, one of the greatest advantage of India in the global economic order was our uh, labor was as a competitive advantage. Now that would actually may not stand for long because of automation and robotics integration. So therefore, the need for us would, in fact, there's a nice book called The End of Work. But anyway, the point would be to uh, generate, the world would be divided to two kinds of people, the skilled and the unskilled. It will not be the rich and the poor. So therefore, it's time to integrate an extraordinary amount of human as well as technological skill in order to be in the race of being the manufacturing hub. Yes, the labor will experience a certain step, especially the normal unskilled work is getting automated. So therefore, labor needs to be updated in terms of training and their orientation. Yes.
Uh, I, I would like to highlight one thing that Dr. Nair is saying it's already happening. There is something called premature deindustrialization. So earlier, the structural transformation was seen as excess labor engaged in agriculture moving to manufacturing, then from manufacturing to services. And if we see the development progress of East Asian economies primarily, you see that the first stage of structural transformation when excess labor from agriculture moved to manufacturing, primarily because manufacturing was the only sector where relatively low skill labor could be employed in huge number because that sector was primarily labor intensive. Now in post 2000s, this phenomenon has been seen in most countries, which we call premature deindustrialization. The ability of manufacturing sector to absorb labor has reduced significantly. So for producing the same product, if earlier 10 workers were used, now the same thing can be done using, let's say, 6 workers. And that is one of the major reasons why this is happening, is because of artificial intelligence and robotics. So obviously this is going to impact both individual, because of job prospect, and because it's not about just individual job. At a social level, employment affects all of us. So the new way of manufacturing is definitely going to impact both individual and the society.
Any other question?
I think there is a
There's one
question.
in the discussion box.
Yeah, Lalit Gatre has written, what skills as we human develop? What skills we as humans develop so we can compete with the growing era of artificial intelligence and machine learning? Dr. Nair, I think you should answer this.
Sure, thank you, sir. Now, that's a very interesting question, but if you were to ask me to point out one question, one skill that needs to be updated, we are in the era called as knowledge society or economy. So the one skill, please understand, it used to be previously learn, work, retire. Today, learn, work, learn, work. A lifelong learning aptitude and ability to enable that, to have the basic technical and human skills. Human, social, and technical skills are basic, but develop an attitude of constant and continuous learning by self, by peer, by observation. So, self learning, lifelong learning skill. It's not about getting your degree or PhD and settling down into a job. It's about constantly updating yourself. That's one skill you'll have to learn, how to keep learning. Yeah.
And I also think that in the new, because of the new technology, there will be a high value associated with originality and creativity. Anything that can be copied and that can be, codified and shared with a lot of people, usually gradually will become less important and less value will be given to it. Because of artificial intelligence and machine learning, it will be very easy to share things that can be codified.
Absolutely, absolutely. Two things to add here. One is be very, very proficient with the technology associated with your domain, accounting to law to medicine to engineering, with your domain technical skills. Second one, get ready to manage a lot of ambiguity and non clarity. Managing ambiguity, because we are in a VUCA world, as you say. So, therefore, you are right in trying to ability. Therefore, a lot of creative and critical thinking abilities have to be developed. You're right. So, these are basic, but look at everything as a learning experience. Yeah.
We have another question, which is Devashish Panchal. We see varying companies post advertisements based on trends. How greatly has online digital marketing platform affected the marketing branding process? Uh, I mean, this question basically has so many dimensions that, I mean, it is at the heart of the everything that is happening here. Because data is what most of the online tech giants like Google is looking for. We all think that Google provides the service free of cost. It's not, that's not completely true. We are paying huge amount of data through different activities that we do on internet, and that is the price that we are paying to them. And why it is very important is basically what you have asked for. I mean, their ability to place correct advertisement is increasing day by day as they know more about you. We are always surprised that if I Google the price of air flight ticket between, let's say, Delhi to Bombay, after 1 hour, advertisement will pop up on my screen about hotels in Bombay. Okay, so this is basically something that, I mean, every internet company is looking for more and more data, and that has improved the branding. I mean, now we see that a lot of products are being launched through social media platform like Instagram, and its reach is increasing day by day. But at the heart of this is all getting more information, more data on consumers so that that can be exploited. And it is very, very futuristic. So, I mean, here I just want to highlight one thing so that you see how enormous it is. There is a project with going on in Amazon, which is basically not about what is being sold right now. They are building a model where they will themselves send a set of products to your home without you ordering, based on your past purchasing data. And if you don't want it, you can just return it. They are building a model on those lines. You can imagine the amount of data that is required to successfully create a model like this. So it has, I mean, online digital marketing platform has really transformed branding and how we see a product and how we consume a product. Dr. Nair, do you want to answer this as well?
Just to add a little more to what you said, sir. Now, digital marketing or online marketing, that is the future. First point. The other day, you know that the net banking professionals from banks are calling up the customers and asking them to use net banking. Why I'm saying this? Because people are moving from net-based to the mobile platform in dealing with things. So the point one, the digital marketing is evolving and make it compatible to your phone. The point one. The other one, to add to what Dr. Dwivedi said, sentiment analysis, the huge big data analytics. Now you have a screen or a camera which captures as you enter, say, a supermarket or a mall, and 300 images in a second, and a sentiment analysis is done. And immediately the people get to know how many of them are intending to buy and how many of them are just for the experience and how many of them are just killing some time. The point I'm coming to is neural marketing and artificial intelligence, deep learning, it's going beyond our imagination. Now, why is this being done? So to customize, as Dr. Dwivedi said, customize their offering to you, not just once. Today, in virtual marketing or digital marketing, if you sell a product, that's not the end of a process. It's a beginning of a process to establish a lifelong relationship. So digital marketing is just huge area of influencing customer behavior. Yes.
I can see another question. It says, as we can see high environment cost due to industrial revolution, will that trend still continue with emerging technology? I don't think so, because the whole idea about emerging technology is that we need new technology where you have very low environment cost or very low emissions, to be very, very specific. So we need these technologies where you have very low emissions. And that's why I don't think with the new technology will have that high environmental cost. But I do like to, highlight one thing that I said in the very introductory remark. And I mean, in that sense, it's very interesting. Industrial revolution, as I told you, started with coal mines. And then it got magnified through petrol and diesel. And oil and coal were at the heart of the industrial revolution earlier cycles. And that is at the center of the environmental damage that has happened. Those days in the industrial revolution 1 and 2, people were very happy when they found coal and oil, because the alternate source of wind and water energy, let's say, or sun, was not very, it was not portable, it was not very, very reliable. But life, in a sense, in a very, very long run sense, has come to a full circle, that after using coal and oil for so many years, now humanity is going back to wind and sun. And there maybe technology is going to help us this time to make it more portable, more usable, more reliable, so that we use it and with a very, very low environmental cost. Dr. Nair, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to add, beautiful perspective. Now, let me submit this that I believe technology is like a tiger. It will make you very powerful and attractive, but also there are certain inherent issues if you abandon it, because you'll have to find the solution from technology itself. Point one. Second thing, there are certain concerns because of technology in terms of environmental concerns, which of course is the e-waste and things like that. But for example, China has banned cryptocurrency because of the huge power consumption in mining them. So there are certain concerns, but the point is, as Dr. Dwivedi says, it's about considerably the fossil fuel consumption and things like that. Of course, directly has not been so, electronic industry, otherwise they're allowed to be established across near urban areas because of the relatively less emissions and things like that. But then it will have a certain thing which eventually technology will have to give us the answers for. Yes.
We have another question. Shikhar says, we see influencer marketing happening on a large scale based on creative reels, etc. It is mostly based on trends. Has following these trends continuously limited our ability to think freely? Has the presence of influencer lead to new sort of social difference? Dr. Nair, what do you think?
Yes, good question. You know something, I think I forgot his name. Uh, it's a new word that you've given, influencer marketing. India has always been a country which has followed heroes. So you can't take away the heroes from our midst. You know, the heroes, of course, emerge from different areas. Today they are into film acting and things like that. So that way, influencers or models or role models have always been important to India. One. But the interesting today is these influencers can emerge from any field with expertise. Now we find hundreds and thousands of youngsters who have expertise in certain area, who have a certain substance, have emerging as influencers. So influencer based marketing is definitely there because India's, our mindset goes with following the trend and therefore identifying a hero or an influencer. Point one. But technology has made it possible for anybody to get on that role of an influencer. All right. But then, as you rightly say, this has also enabled us to be very, very cognitive, very, very analytical about our behavior. So therefore, there's much more examination done about our own behavior than blind following. But influencer marketing is here to stay because we are Indians. Yes.
We have another question from Shikhar. Looking at Metaverse, I see a new world of virtual ads and marketing entering the world. What are your views on this? Yes, Dr. Nair, I think you should answer this question.
Yeah. You know something, Kshitij? So Facebook is perhaps third or the fourth largest country in the world in terms of population. Now that's a word. Therefore, it's a metaverse. Zuckerberg is keen to create that. Now, gaming is perhaps the fastest growing sector, it cutting across all ages and things like that. Now, health, in every dimension of our life, the virtual or augmented reality is getting in. All right, point one. Point two, this augmented reality is becoming a very much a reality, and therefore, as of now, living in a metaverse is as an experience may look like a fad, but in terms of its application for education, say for example, imagine an experimentation in a metaverse. That's going to be amazing as a means of education. In terms of health and experimentation, Google Health is doing massive work there. So metaverse is going to be an area which will enable us, if applied well, into health and education and various realms. Now space and tourism, today you can tour any part of the world through this augmented reality. So it's going to be a reality, and it offers exciting opportunities. Yes.
I completely agree to Dr. Nair on this. So we should move to the next question. That is Dhruv Kumar Patel. He says that we can see.
Ashirwad
Yeah,
ji,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think this should be the last question because we are running behind schedule. So we'll take this last question and we'll quickly wind up the
Yeah,
session.
yeah. Okay. So this last question is about data sharing and how this is going to change digital marketing. I mean, I would just say that, earlier the awareness on the use of data on internet and how that can be used for digital marketing was very low. As people are more aware about the how data can be exploited in digital marketing, this is going to be there, that there will be a huge cost applied on data. So this, your question's answer is, I think, yes, it will be more difficult, and there will be, the data sharing platforms will be more robust, guided by laws of the nations. And that is why, as it was done in the past, that the data was exploited very freely for digital marketing, I think that will become a bit more difficult.
Just to add my last point here, please understand, students, if something is being offered free, you are being sold. So therefore, somebody is taking your. Now, it's very nice to notice that this year's budget has government proposing to use or utilize data, in fact, market data in a very responsible way. So data is the oil, data is the wealth. So the government is getting into it, in managing it well. So that's a good development, yes.
I think on this note, we can wind up the penultimate session of the seventh edition of VESIM Lit Fest. I thank uh, both Aasherwad ji and Sandeep ji for joining in, and it was a very interesting session because Aasherwad ji, Sandeep ji, just before your session, we were discussing nationalism, civilizational issues. Is India a state or a nation, and is it a nation in progress? And then suddenly we shift towards technology, and we saw a lot of enthusiasm from our students as well, because they came up with a lot of questions. So technology drives this generation. A couple of interesting points which led me to ponder as well was a point which Aasherwad ji made regarding indoor plumbing and washing machine as the most underrated inventions of perhaps the last century, which really got me thinking that यार हमने तो कभी सोचा ही नहीं था indoor plumbing और washing machine कितने बड़े revolution थे करके. Also, Sandeep ji, you mentioned a point, that the next world war can be on social media, and I think glimpses of which we are already seeing as we see during the Ukraine and Russia war, as many of the social media platforms are boycotting a certain country and certain individuals, and they are allowing other sides to express their views freely. So it was a very interesting session, and hopefully, perhaps we can have both of you at our institute in Chembur in Mumbai and have your sessions with our students. I once again wholeheartedly thank Aasherwad ji and Sandeep ji for joining in for this edition of VESIM Lit Fest. Thank you both. And students, we would be starting our next session in 15 minutes. Mr. Sambit Patra, national spokesperson of BJP, would be joining us in the next 15 minutes for the final session of the day.
I would like to express my thanks to Dr. Swati Singh and also Professor Devendra Pai for this opportunity, and listening to Dr. Dwivedi was a joy. I thank you all. I'll be happy to meet you sometime in person. Wishing the best for you. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swati ji and Devendra ji. Thank you, Dr. Nair. I'm very happy to be speaking with you. Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Students be logged in.